Okay, you are live.
I are live, huh?
Yeah, you are live.
Alrighty. Sound check, video check. Everything coming in good? How many people we got on right now, it says?
It doesn't say anything right now.
Oh,
It has not gotten refreshed. It's
darn
not. It's claiming nobody's here, including us.
We're not here?
So it claims.
We're a figment of our imagination?
I don't try to make any
That's
sense out of
absurdio
it.
ad reductum.
Hi, Shiny Rocks. Hi, Tricky.
So, what does it say?
2. Right there. There's nothing.
I know.
Over
what
here.
Did they say? Is that 5 by 5? Or if you don't
yes, it says 5 by 5, and Tricky says you are live, and Chad Fox says I can hear you both. Yep. I am not going to read it unless it's important. Hi, Chad.
Well, you needed to tell me that at least everything's working fine. Thank you. Anyhow.
You are here. I can feel you. Thank you, Tricky. I'm not even going to go there.
Hey, Mr.
Hi,
Virtue.
Mr. Virtue.
That was, I'm just kind of recognizing a little bit. As you can probably tell, my eye still sucks the big one. It does appear to be stable at this point. So I will be going to the optometrist soon. I'll make an appointment tomorrow and get in there and see what they can do. I'm not sure exactly what the issue is, and it's in the cornea, so theoretically it is correctable. But currently, again, I'm getting multiple images in particular directions. The other day, I was looking at a video where the guy's backdrop had a grid work of lines, like a diamond pattern, the bright blue on a black background, and that made it real easy for me to see where the distortions were. And I was getting triple imaging on the lines went from upper right to lower left. There was a primary image, a dimmer secondary image, and an even dimmer tertiary image. So you had this primary on one side, and then on one side you had a secondary, and then on the other side you had a tertiary. So that kind of sucks the big one. The other direction didn't seem to be a problem. So anyhow, that's why optometrists get paid the big bucks, I guess. So I'll go in there and they'll figure out what the deal is and we'll come up with a plan. I'm not terribly worried because it's the cornea and it should be fixable. And people are putting stuff up there that I have no idea.
Mr. Virtue says, great coverage on gold I received from you guys earlier this week. Really? Okay. If they need to take out your eye, make sure they take out your correct one. This will balance you out so you can walk straight. Shiny, he gets 3 times gold fever half the time. Sometimes he sees double, but a lot he sees triple.
Well, that'll look good in the pan. So anyhow, that's kind of the situation with that. The shingles is muscle pain. Not horrendous, not debilitating, but uncomfortable at times. It's readily controlled by Tylenol or ibuprofen, but Eva wants me to take it easy on them because they each have systemic effects on different things at once. I think Tylenol's hard on the liver and the ibuprofen's hard on the kidneys or something to that effect.
Kodak says, hey all, does the eye doc do gold mining? No, the eye doc doesn't do gold mining, but he really likes my crystals.
Yeah, he seemed to like the crystal cluster.
Everybody likes my crystals.
Yeah, we're kind of turning into the Johnny Appleseed of crystal clusters or whatever.
Johnny Crystal Seed.
Yeah, we give them out to people. And yeah, they really appreciate them. And of course, they're relatively inexpensive for us. So it's kind of cool. And it's nice spreading happiness. For those of you who didn't see this week's video, we were up at top of the hill again.
And I hope he gets straightened out too, Shiny.
Yeah, So
Would be nice.
I think they'll be able to fix it. But anyhow, we did a little exploration. We figured that there was a road between point A and point B. It turns out there was a path. It's steep, and we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we're going to have to climb back up, and we're getting a fair amount down, so it's time to turn around. There was a big pile of down trees below me at that point. It's like, now's the time to call it a day. So we climbed back up out of there.
Mr. Virtue says proper nutrition's key. Take human growth hormones and selenium. I'm making sure that all his vitamins and minerals are up to date. We don't have any human growth hormones.
Yeah. But anyhow, so then we went back to the dozer dump, and took us, well, I'd say it took us a day, because Saturday morning we slept in late. What did we wake up, 9 o'clock? Something like that? Oh my goodness.
Somewhere around there.
So we got a late start on it. We got finished up the next morning pretty early, so I think if we'd have got up at a reasonable time, we would have done it basically in one day. And for those of you keeping track or just wanting some rough numbers, I did calculations of our current costs, and
Mr. Virtue says Dr. Joel Wallach. Look him up. I will look him up, Mr. Virtue. Thank you.
And anyhow, when we're mining a dump, like at the dozer dump, etc., and then bringing it back and processing it, we need to recover about 0.4 ounces per ton to hit profitability. When we're underground mining, like out at Montana B, it's more like 0.8 of an ounce per
Hi,
ton.
Brian. And Kodak says Jeff Williams talked about piezoelectric making gold gather and grow also. He said, my joke was real. Throw the small stuff back and it will grow bigger. Yeah, especially in earthquake zones, apparently.
Yep. So
We do actually have some mining news tonight, but it's about quartz.
Yeah.
So.
And they're working on getting the mines, some of the underground mines at Butte back up and running, apparently. They're looking more for the gold and silver. Originally, it was the copper. And when that became uneconomic, they closed that down. But now they're looking at going back underground for gold and silver underneath Butte.
Woohoo!
So there's work there. I'm too old for that. But
Dang it.
Yeah.
Hi, honey bunny. Why are you too old? Do they have age cutoffs, actually?
just the health in general. No, I mean, they'd prefer not to hire an old geezer that's long in the tooth, because then your training doesn't have a long payback period. But anyhow, so as I say, that's an interesting thing. How many people we got watching now? We should just have
It says 10.
10. Okay, I'll wait just a little bit longer, and then I'll kind of.
Are there any precious metals in that dump? I say with gold prices the way they are, those mines thought to be not profitable to work anymore would be worth working now.
I don't know about reworking the dumps, but there are definitely mineralized zones accessible by underground mining that were not mined out initially because they didn't have much copper.
Well, I do know that Golden Sunlight was looking at reworking some dumps a while back.
But and they're looking at that. It would not surprise me, but I'm not sure of any of the details, so I couldn't tell you. So I do know that they're looking at reopening underground workings for direct exploitation of precious metals ore bodies. The situation we're looking at right now is we are not in a profitable mode, but we're offsetting a significant part of the exploration cost with the amount of gold we are recovering. The impact mill, I've got I'm using the hard alloy 140 rod right now for hard facing, and I don't think it's as good as the Studi.
Honey says she watched Jason's first shots for this mining season, and man, it looks excellent.
I saw his video is up, but I haven't had a lot of time. When we take off for a weekend,
Mr. Virtue says he's here for the gold.
yeah, we come back. We got 3 days worth of notifications to go through. Now, another thing, and Eva will have a lot more on this in her tinfoil hat report.
Well, it's not seriously a tinfoil hat report. I'm just going to get people up to date on
It's not a mining
the
report.
current state of computers.
Yeah, but anyhow, over in North Carolina, apparently the mountainous regions in the west of North Carolina got really hammered.
Honey says he's
By
got
the
a
hurricane.
4-foot thick vein with lots of visible gold on the face.
Well, I wish I did, that
Yeah.
rascal.
Oh, he's always running into good stuff.
Yeah.
Tricky says, anyone know anything about the Gold Exorcist? It's a dry extractor like a reverse photocopier drum. Uses air and electrostatic components to alter the charge on the gold. Works down to 400 mesh.
I am completely unaware of it, so I have no information to impart there. But anyhow, I have family in North Carolina, but they're all in the eastern part of the state. There's only 2 people they knew that were in the affected area. One of them is just fine. The other one they haven't had any contact with yet, but that doesn't necessarily mean much. But it really got hammered. And they've lost a lot of road infrastructure. They've had, I mean, it was basically very severe flash flooding, debris flows, and stuff like that. So one would anticipate that the loss of life is going to go up dramatically in the near future.
Honey Bunny says, I know there are a lot of different experimental ways of using electricity and magnetism to separate gold.
Yeah. But anyhow, so say it didn't affect my family too badly, but yeah, there's a lot of people over there hurting, and Eva's got an interesting little mining connection to that little disaster too. Little one, can you switch to the screen here?
Yeah. There you go, folks. This is what we've been up to this week.
Is that clear enough? Can people see that, do you think?
Yeah, they
Okay.
should be able to see it.
Anyhow, for those of you who have seen the various videos and stuff, I thought I'd make a nice diagram as to what we're dealing with. This is what we call the disturbed area and the dozer dump. Now, this is over here is a top view. When I say road, I mean a path through the trees.
Kodak says, anybody else watching Whitney Webb talk videos? Not yet.
No. So
And Honey has a brother in West Tennessee, but he was safe.
that's good. So road basically means a fairly wide path. So we enter this way. We have built a 3-point turnaround here and usually park the quad down here. Now, this whole area was disturbed when we first got there. This area has been scraped by a dozer. There is not too deep. Here is much deeper. I'm guessing around 6, maybe 8 feet from the original surface. And this material was pushed up into this dump here. And Eva started here, kind of mining out the side of the dump. We've worked our way all the way around over here.
406 Miner says, was talking to Rock Butcher. He might be coming down our way next month. Well, hi, 406. We were just talking about you. Gonna touch base and see if we could get together at some point.
Yeah.
Honey Bunny said it did look like decomposed shale, and Francis Ray says gold is diamagnetic, very susceptible to eddy currents.
Okay. It appears that this was an old trench, and this was the Mullakeep from that trench. Now, whether there was a Mullakeep on the other side, we can't tell. It would be relatively consistent with their techniques, but this would be the downhill side, so that Mullakeep would typically be larger. The dozer came in and scraped right along here, and presumably this area here had all this quartz in it that's in the dump. We are now around the end here where we're at this presumably trench. I had already dug down here a bit to get to the bottom of it, see if I could see a structure that was something that they were visually following.
Oh, wow. I haven't had a chance to look for 406's video. Jeff says Mullakeep.
That's an Australian term, which means basically the waste pile. Okay. And I got that from Stewart at Mad Scientist Prospecting.
Kodak says Whitney Webb's one of the best investigative reporters on
good.
corruption. Yeah.
Yeah. On what?
On corruption.
Yeah.
And Kodak, if we had more time to be watching videos right now, I would be. You know.
Yeah. But anyhow, so I'm really interested in what the next day's work is going to do.
Hi, Chris.
Georgie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 406 says he needs to get us the pyrite samples and the agatized jasper. I saw those pictures that you sent him that you wanted me to see. They are so pretty. I can't wait to see them in person. Secret Creek Prospecting. Hi. And smash that like button. Yes.
So this will allow us to visually identify the bedrock theoretically as we move this loose rock and dumps and expose the decomposing bedrock or whatever the heck is underneath it. So that's going to be real interesting. And this is a cross section of this part of the dump down here. For those of you who saw the video, this is a little overly simplistic, but on top you have roots and fine, not real fine, but I mean, like coarse sand and pea gravel, up to pea gravel sized particles in just a mass of roots and such, and some obvious organic material, then typically some smaller rocks, and then much larger rocks. Our current working hypothesis is dozers cut top to bottom, so one would expect the bottom would have the original soil here. We don't see any. This, we're presuming, is not original soil.
Hi, David.
What's happened is in the last 100 years or so, the freeze-thaw cycle and the action of the roots has broken this material down and, for lack of a better term, digested the more weatherable minerals, leaving behind the resilient quartz. And so we get these residual chunks, which are quite often thin, that were the old veinlets and stuff.
Chris says the surface material is being broken down by humic acid and fungal enzymes to a large degree. And I will interject here and point out, at the other dump that I have been investigating that has the ground cover juniper, the biomat under that juniper, if you sift it through a classifying screen, It's filled with zillions of tiny ice clear crystals because they were quartz crystals. They were obviously those little veiny, toothy things, and the rock they were in got ate up by the predatory juniper. Chris says take a look at the soil series definitions from Geotech World. Sounds good. Soil series definitions, Geotech.
That's our explanation at the current time to why this zone here has the crystal clusters and things like that in it, and they're much less common down here. Although down here is where we find the big chunks of quartz in general. So that's our current hypothesis, and I'm guessing that this area here, we may be able to get down to the original bedrock, which had whatever it was that they were interested in.
Who knows? Maybe if we tunnel under it, we'll find what they were interested in.
I do not know, but as we work our way up, we should get some interesting information there.
And the variety of crystal clusters I am finding just stunning. I love them all, of course. That goes without saying.
Yeah, we've got a lot of them, and they're quite interesting.
And we still have a third area to explore that's up at the top of that picture, top right-hand corner of your board, where those juniper bushes, the only up further, you haven't drawn it in your picture. Brian says it seems like a rehabbed area. That's something I have been wondering about. Oh, wow, honey bunny. Oh, so sad. Yeah, but up in the upper right-hand corner there, it's out of the frame. There is a couple of the only place in this area that has the ground covered juniper growing on it. And when I was doing my loaming and soil samples, that happened to also be the place that turned back the best values. So I'm looking forward to, in the little bit of time we have left, hopefully taking a closer look at the very top of this situation, the last stuff that hit these various piles.
Well, are you talking about the ground cover juniper that's on the top of the dump?
Yeah.
Okay, that's there. This is top of the dump. You're talking right in this.
Yeah, it would be right over there.
This is where it was scraped down into the bedrock.
It would be right over there.
Like over here? Yeah.
Somewhere
I
in that
understand what you're saying. Yeah, we'll probably not get there directly.
Kodak says if I was closer to gold, I would watch much less videos and would normally not watch political junk, fed up with all the bull decades ago, but have more downtime and the bull is more of a threat. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree at this point.
I would agree with that, honey bunny. The juniper seems to like high alkaline soil, and what's interesting about that...
Alkaline or acid? Do you know?
Actually, juniper is one of the few pine type things that seems to like alkalins almost more than acid, because the funny thing about it is all that green you see in the background in a lot of the videos, all the ground cover, are huckleberry bushes, which love high acid soil. They love the soil you get after forest fires. So it is quite interesting.
So anyhow, that's kind of a little overview there, if that's helpful.
And I got some cool pictures to show you guys this week too.
When we took this, the sample, where we took it down slice by slice, about here was one sample, then to that was another sample, and then we got the lower stuff for the final sample. I'll be crushing and processing those separately. Also over here, this was one sample, and then up in this area was another sample. So it's easy to do. It's not much labor to
Kodak,
segregate
at the moment, we have zero history on this site because any history that may be extant is sitting in a bunch of boxes put away until the State Historical Society is done building the new museum. And that includes everything on microfiche, etc. We tried to find information on it in Butte, but the information in Butte is very...
Actually, we didn't try too much on this one. It was Montana Bee. Yeah.
We
We're
have to
gonna go
go
up there.
we have to go back to Butte very shortly to see if we can find anything else. But during the great, what I would call the great patenting explosion around here, where zillions of mines were being patented, like, the patented mining claims were breeding like freaking rabbits. A lot of the information just, at the moment, is not available. It's probably locked up in the State History Museum vaults,
Well,
or
there's some that may be in the Fed's records, but
it may be in the Fed's records, but under what? Because a lot of
Chris
these places...
will help us this winter.
Yeah.
Because to get a patent mining claim, you have to file a document
Yeah.
which explains why you think you should get a claim, which should have a lot of the
Yes, I
information.
know. And the question is, how many of the names we think are the names they were? That's my question.
Oh, it's pretty easy when you look on the cadastral and it says, this is the XYZ load,
Yeah.
mineral survey 7232.
Yeah.
It's
When it
pretty
gives
easy
when
to
it
tell.
gives you the information, that's great. When it doesn't, like this spot here, have we found anything on the cadastral? Or anything
Yeah.
else?
You know, the HS, the BA, the W, the L. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
Well, yeah, BlackRock owns everything. BlackRock owns a lot of crap.
It's
It's
not
absolutely
BlackRock.
ridiculous.
There's some people from Texas. They own a lot of the stuff up there. All
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saying is,
No,
oh, something else. Yeah, I mean, we have claim names, the such and such load, and the mineral survey numbers for all of the currently extant patented claims up there. There's a couple that have apparently been bought back by the feds. There's one in particular that we staked this summer that older maps show a patented claim there, but the current maps do not. Presumably, the Forest Service bought that back and turned it back into forest, national forest.
well, anyway, if you're done showing off your little whiteboard thing there, do you want to look at some of the rocks I
Go
took
ahead,
pictures
little one.
of?
Take it over. She's got show and tell her.
Now, this first picture is not the greatest in terms of
Wow.
it is not the greatest in terms of quality because I was taking it through the macro for my camera. That is a piece of that green mica that is on some of the rocks that I got when we were up visiting Lauren. Very, very pretty stuff. It's changeable in color. Sometimes when you look at it, it's a dark grayish green. In other lights, it's almost emerald. So there's that one. And then the same.
Jean-Francois, hello.
Hi, Jean-Francois. Yeah, buying back gold mines. That might be a trend. And yes, Chris, I'd like to read the historical index. I'd like to read a lot of things right now, but lately we haven't had time to do anything.
No,
Can't even breathe.
totally.
This is a better picture of the same mica. Now notice, these are two pieces of mica that I broke off, and they're sitting on the leg of my jeans, which is that thing in the background. Gives you some idea of
Scale.
the scale of it. But it also gives you some idea of the difference in color, because when these were together, they both looked a bright emeraldy green, but they are pretty changeable in color when they're being moved around. This is a third piece of the same material from a slightly different angle. As you can see, you get a lot more of the green texture. Sometimes they look mossy, sometimes they look bright, shiny emerald green, sometimes they look blue-green. Classic mica in the sense that they come apart as flexible, almost like thin plastic sheets, which is really cool. And, you know, when we were up there visiting Lauren, the one thing I will say about copper mines is they are outrageously colorful, and it's a case of so many rocks and so few buckets. So here's one of the beautiful pieces of azurite that I got. This one, you can actually, in the regular, under the jeweler's loop in good light, you can actually see the depth of the azurite and the malachite and this stuff. And it's just so pretty. This is another piece of it that I enjoyed. That one is actually a thin banding of both the blue-green and the electric blue that goes all the way around the edge of a rock. So,
I mean, a coating?
oh no,
Or is it
it's
depth?
actually got some depth to it. It's not a thin coating. It's not a skimmer. Quite the sight, I will say that. And then there is this.
I need to look at the.
I know. I'm going to in a minute. Then there's this nice piece of olivine that I got at the same place, and it is really pretty in person. It's gorgeous, nice quartz matrix on there. I think it would polish up really nice personally, but you know. So those are some of the rocks that I enjoyed. And yeah, copper color really is beautiful. I mean, copper mines are just outrageously good looking. I wish there was large scale mica there, honey bunny. It's all really small, but my plan is next time I go up there, because there's whole areas of it, as you saw in that video, where the host rock that was holding that mica decomposed into a sort of clay. And I'm thinking if I rinse that stuff through with water, I'm going to end up with the mica being on its own, and then I can put it in little tiny bottles and sell it as fairy dust. Gonna work great. And yeah, if they were larger pieces, there's probably a really good use for it. But it is just such pretty stuff. And there, you know, it was very nice to see a green mica product. I know I have read in my books that it comes in a variety of different colors, but I'm used to just seeing the clear kind. It was like, yes.
If it was green, wouldn't it be leprechaun dust?
Yeah, leprechaun dust. And yes, honey bunny, that's what they used to use when I was a kid. All the old glitter eyeshadows and crap used mica in them. It's crazy.
You just scroll up
But
higher
yeah.
than that.
Well, it could be pixie dust too, Tricky Dicky. I'm not sure what I want to call them yet. I'll be thinking about it. But yeah, those are some of the prettier things that I have collected lately, other than my quartz crystals. And yeah, we've been having an amazing time giving those quartz crystals out to everybody. So right now, while we're talking about actual mining
Okay.
and things,
I will go look and see where we started.
they're talking about engines and things. I already looked.
You didn't say you did.
Yes, I looked. Lord. Okay.
It sucks being blind.
So go to the bathroom. Hi, Red Wing. You're here in time for a mining article. I'm going to read an article real quick. And yes, people, I know that this article is off NPR. And you know that I don't like NPR. However, they're one of the few people who actually gives the full breakdown on the situation. A tiny town just got slammed by Helene. It could massively disrupt the tech industry. A tiny town in North Carolina that's just been devastated by Hurricane Helene could end up severely disrupting the global supply chain for microchips and solar panels. Nestled in the Appalachian Mountains, the community of Spruce Pine, population 2194, is known for hiking local artists and as America's sole source of high-purity quartz. Yeah, I know, Mr. Virtue. I was like, since when does NPR have the best breakdown in an article? This is crazy, you know. just Helene dumped more than 2 feet of rain on the town, destroying roads, shops, and cutting power and water. But its reach will likely be felt far beyond the small community. Semiconductors are the brains of every computer chip-enabled device, and solar panels are a key part of the global push to combat climate change. Yeah, they had to get that in there, okay? To make both semiconductors and solar panels, companies need crucibles and other equipment that both can withstand extraordinarily high heat and can be kept absolutely clean. One material fits the bill: quartz. Pure quartz. Quartz that comes overwhelmingly from spruce pine. As far as we know, there's only a few places in the world that have ultra-high quality quartz, according to Ed Conway, author of Material World, the 6 raw materials that shape modern civilization. But spruce pine has far and away the largest amount and highest quality. Russia and Brazil also supply high quality quartz, but nothing apparently comes up to what we have in little old spruce pine. Purity really does matter. You're talking about a process to create the silicon wafers that become silicon chips, where one single atom being in the wrong place could derail production. Companies have been pursuing artificial substitutes, but so far those alternatives cannot satisfy the world's demand for this pure quartz. According to an annual report from TechSet, a market research firm, quartz equipment is a $2.12 billion and growing industry. What's unfolding in spruce pine isn't just a local emergency. Like many climate disasters, there they go again, it has economic costs that will ripple around the world. Spruce pine received 24.12 inches of rain from Helene, according to the National Weather Service. The massive inundation caused the North Toe River to flood, devastating the downtown area, according to Spencer Bost, Executive Director of Downtown Spruce Pine, the local business development association. It's flooded up to the awnings, about 10 feet, he said of downtown's Lower Street. Lower Street was destroyed. The town's grocery store was also heavily damaged in the flooding. Power, water, and cellular service are all down, Bost says. Fallen trees and washed out roads have left the community isolated from the outside. We were there for about 3 days before we got enough chainsaws together to cut a path out of our own neighborhood. He said he and his fiancée spent 9 hours working their way to Greenville, North Carolina, where they temporarily sought shelter. Conditions at the mines that produce the quartz remain unclear. We're in a phase of assessing the situation, and it's far too early to comment on the impact to high-purity quartz production, Mary Kristen Hagen of the Quartz Corporation told NPR in a statement. Wow. Something that wasn't from an anonymous source. That's bizarre. A second major supplier, Sibelco, based in Antwerp, Belgium, told NPR its operations have been disrupted since September 26. We're working with our local team to safely restart operations as soon as we can and are actively coordinating with local authorities and other partners to manage the situation. Images verified by NPR show even if the mines are intact, getting the quartz out of the region may be a challenge. The main CSX rail line in and out of Spruce Pine runs along the North Toe River and has been heavily damaged. The rail line was the primary shipping point for quartz from the mines. Conway says he believes chip makers have stocks of ultra-pure quartz that will prevent a short-term supply from hobbling production. But if spruce pine remains cut off from the rest of the world, it will have a big impact. Just one of the interesting little things that is coming out of this entire event here.
Well, this is why when you have complex, interrelated supply chains
Which are about to be disrupted by the ILA longshoremen strike on the East Coast, by the way.
Yeah, it's hard to say what's going to cause a major problem or not.
Now, this is an interesting point in the middle of this. China is the major producer of solar panels, and it relies heavily on imports of high-quality quartz from spruce pine. Lita Shonroy, the president and CEO of market research firm TechSet, has been tracking the supply chain for semiconductors for 2 decades. She said it's amazing the industry hasn't been more concerned about the vulnerability created from relying on this one region of North Carolina for a crucial material. Every time I've asked the last 2 decades, the question always comes back, well, where else are we supposed to get it, she said. It's not that this stuff isn't available. It's that what's in spruce pine is the best. Okay? That's where we are. The United States and China are in a global competition to secure access to raw materials for semiconductors and green technology. Frantic searches are underway for new deposits and new methods across a range of minerals. But when it comes to pure quartz, I haven't heard of any viable sources yet to replace what's in North Carolina. So we shall see what happens there. But meanwhile, this is where a lot of people are going to be very, very surprised, because the public, this story is still way below the public's radar on social media and on Reddit. It's amazing the number of people that are like, oh, well, they'll just spin up a lab somewhere and start making this stuff artificially. The problem is they already discovered it doesn't work that well. Yeah. So, and a lot of people also do not realize that depending on the kind of damage that happens in the mine, it can be an awful long time before it comes back up.
Okay.
So,
406 Miner, where is Phillipsburg itself? I'm not familiar with the town. And Honey Bunny, yeah, look up Q Creek Mine.
oh yeah.
It kind of sucked, but they managed to get them all out alive.
But anyway, the other thing everyone needs to watch out for is the strike that will probably start at midnight tonight, unless this has all been kabuki theater, you know. Well, 406, it depends. These guys were at 2,600 feet, and they'd never had a flood. So, yeah. Things have been bad in North Carolina. He's going to sit back in front of here in a minute, but we've got quite a few black swan events. As we were saying online, we were talking about all of the weird bullshit that has been extant in the last week or so. We decided that apparently the black swans are migrating, and they all decided to land in America. At the moment, it very much looks like the ILA is going on strike as of midnight. For absolutely spurious reasons. I'm not a great fan of unions in the first place. I am even less a fan of this one at the moment. Also, Ryan Hall of Ryan Hall Y'all is watching several other large storm systems that may well end up hammering this entire hurricane region over the next week or so, while the ground is already saturated, which is really going to suck, because that is what happened in this part of North Carolina. That mine is over 2,600 feet. What happened up there is they'd had a series of heavy rains over the last couple of weeks that completely saturated the soil. So when they all of a sudden got hit with 24 inches of rain in 12 hours, a lot of massive debris flows happened. We're talking, I saw videos online of walls of mud and debris 2 stories high, taking out towns that were already flooded. It is just insane what has happened up there in the mountains. And it washed out a hell of a lot of roads. It also washed out the rail spurs. I do not know whether they yet have I-40 and I-26 open again in that area.
I heard that one side of I-26 is open.
But this actually shut down I-40 and I-26 going through there, and it was an entire 24 hours before the Google Foo and Amazon Maps and all the map programs updated to show that I-40, for instance, was no longer a viable route. So a lot of people that were trying to get things into the area were following outdated / inaccurate information that was on navigation programs. Number one reason the whole thing is just a massive clusterfuck at the moment. If anybody wants to keep a good tab on what's going on there, you want to follow Ryan Hall Y'all on YouTube. You also want to follow Nick Sortor and get on X. because basically X right now is the number one source everybody's using to convey information on this matter, because it's still looking like most of the aid that is there consists of private citizens like the Cajun Navy, and Samaritan's Purse, and ordinary private folks deciding to get back into things. But what I'm going to be watching is what is going to be happening with the mining district there. Because if that source for the most pure quartz in the world, Brian Hall and Nick Sortor, Sortor, I believe it is. We're going to be watching that because if it turns out that for some bizarre reason these mines, and there's more than one there's 2 or 3 that are in that particular mining district, and that's all they're known for, are not back online very expeditiously, the sudden drying up of the world's largest source of ultra high purity quartz is going to have a tremendous number of downstream effects on tech and on precious metals. I'm already expecting that we're going to see some bumps in price of gold and silver coming up that people may not have been expecting. Because now that we have a longshoreman strike that is going to massively disrupt the supply chain, we have several weather events that are coming up. It's Sortor, I believe it is. He works with Tucker Carlson occasionally, independent citizen journalist. I can look him up on X in a few minutes and type it in, Mr. Virtue. We've already got the effects, the current effects of the hurricane, the ongoing effects of the hurricane, the ongoing effects of the major weather systems that are beginning to move into the area that may hit the hurricane zone, which will only complicate things more. And a mine that is the primary source of an extremely critical material that is way below everybody's radar.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that comes out of here is, from everything I've read about it, when they say it's the best in the world by far over all the other high purity quartz sources.
What kind of quartz is it? Is it vein quartz or
Okay, what
quartzite or
happened is,
what?
geologically speaking, about 350 million years ago, the plain between Alaska and the plain in North America were coming together and doing their thing. You know,
The plate?
plates. The plates were coming together and doing their thing. And what happened is, while they were coming together and doing their thing 380 million years ago, there were some extremely pure minerals formed, quartz minerals, that were formed without excess water in the area. So when they did their crystal thing and they made their crystal quartz, there was no water inclusions or something in there. It is a very, very interesting subject, but this is considered the purest quartz in the entire world, which is why they use it to make absolutely pure crucibles that are used exactly once. And those crucibles are used somehow to produce the silicon chips. And this is something that is everybody's, it is totally off everybody's radar. A few of us have tried to talk about it on Reddit and X and elsewhere, and people are like, what? It's quartz. That's everywhere. Stop being stupid. You're just fear-mongering. It's like, no. Actually, this is a serious thing, you know. Just saying. But, you can't expect the clueless to understand these things. So anyway, I'm going to go to the bathroom and get myself something to drink. He is going to come sit back here, and then I'm going to get on my phone, get some information for you people, and type it in the chat. Bye-bye. And go to your coin shop, people. Premiums ain't going to stay low forever.
Anyhow, while I'm sure that if they lose this source of ultra pure silica, they can come up with alternatives. These things take some amount of time to bring online. So, in the long term, I wouldn't expect catastrophic results, but in the short term, it's hard to tell. I say it's an example of when you push supply chains to the limit and you don't have robustness and resiliency built in, weird things can happen.
It's also an example of times where there is really only one thing that really works the best.
Oh, I'm sure that they could make a way of refining silica to the point where it's pure enough, but then they'd wind up having to build a facility to make it, and it would probably be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
I say,
And one of the problems, it also highlights, I believe, one of the problems with the rapid advancement of tech is when you come up with a tech that is so reliant on something so esoteric, you're going to have a problem.
yes, well, that works on everything where there's single source stuff. Anyhow, so that's a kind of an interesting thing that, as she said, isn't really on anyone's radar. But again, just it emphasizes why everyone should have redundancy and resilience built into their personal systems and such. You never know when the disruption is going to happen.
Plenty of
And,
disruptions right now.
and when it happens is not the time to be trying to buy what you need. So,
Kodak, if the price of silver is going up, are you getting paid more or less trading for your labor?
right now, we're just keeping everything the same because it's so far the claim owner has been patient with outlaying expenses to try and find an ore body. Now, if we had an ore body of significant size and grade where, profitability was routine and significant, then we'd see about potentially renegotiating something. Currently, I see no reason to try and do that since, again, I have not been able to achieve profitability
Oh,
for
good
it.
grief.
What?
Try to.
Yeah, I know. Typing. But so that's kind of our situation right now. We're it's hard to tell when the season is going to shut down up there. It has to do, for sure, it's going to get shut down around the middle of December because they close the roads. Okay? It's for the elks and stuff, I guess. Well, wait a minute. They've still got the snowmobiles up there. I don't know how it was there. I know the other place they closed the roads.
Well, when it comes to buying silver and gold at pawn shops, I do like to have a good relationship with a pawn shop owner when I can. I haven't built the one that I would like here, not just for gold and silver, but for other things. Where we are getting gold and silver at a pawn shop is really iffy. The best buy by far tends to be unmarked sterling silver bands or unmarked sterling, with no engraving or names on them or anything. Or sterling silver bracelets or necklaces or things like that. Sterling silver flatware and tea sets tend to be a lot more, they're more closer to antique prices, etc. But at my local coin shop at least, and I have heard the same is true at other coin shops elsewhere, the most unpopular silver is the 40% Kennedy half dollars and the older commemorative silver dollars, like the older Olympiad dollars, the Ellis Island, things like that, before the mint went to using 3 nines fine and charging $100 for the dang things. I have gotten quite a few of those older commemorative silver dollars for spot. I've also gotten quite a few of them for melt. They tend to have about 26.5 grams of silver in them, so they're not a full ounce. But they also tend to be limited in mintage to about 400,000 across all products in the line. So on some of them, there'll be 20 different products, like a silver round with a copper round and a keychain in a box, And so the individual coins will have really low mintages depending on which product you run into. And the different mints will make the different products. So you can get all kinds of good stuff. And yes, you do need to shop around, Mr. Virtue. Our problem with pawn shops here, there is exactly one guy that owns all of the pawn shops in our area. It is very interesting. He owns about 4 or 5 pawn shops. There are other ones that have come and gone. There's a couple of smaller ones that are more into, like, one is more into musical instruments and tools, and another one is more into, like, hunting trophies, musical instruments, movies, and cars and boats. So the guy that has the best all-around selection and takes everything has 4 or 5 pawn shops in various areas of town. And yes, I do like to visit them because he's cool, he's really nice to talk to.
It's a good place to get non-power tools.
And it is
You
a
get
great
real
place.
cheap.
Yeah, I mean, literally, he has bins with different sizes of sockets, so you can pick and choose the kind of sockets you want. You can,
Yep.
10 gajillion screwdrivers, all kinds of things.
Yep. Anyhow, when it comes to the impact mill, the bob mill out there, we finally blew the engine up. Well, we didn't blow it up, it just kind of wore out. Went to Harbor Freight, got a new one, and the mill is running much better now. It's not bogging down as much. It's having an easier time powering through surges in material, and so that is highly desirable. I waited too long before just biting the bullet and getting a new one. That's why you buy the 2-year warranty, so you just take it in, trade it off, pay $50, get another engine. But it's definitely working a lot better. The hard facing still isn't lasting as long as I would like, but we're gonna kind of probably just gonna have to order in some Studi. That nobody has Studi as a normal supplier, except for one of them. General Distributing can get the Studi 31, but the 21 is a harder material. So the Studi 21 is not in their catalog, so to speak. And so I'll probably just have to order that over the internet. Shouldn't be terribly expensive, but it seems to me it lasted longer. Eva's having a good time welding. She's enjoying that. She's doing a good job. She's a little more patient than I am, and it's easier for her to stop the arc before the the base metal gets too hot and let it cool down and then restart again. So she's done a good job doing some build-up with hard face and some worn parts. I'm pretty impressed with how quickly she's picking it up, and she says she enjoys it. So that's working out quite well, especially with Blind Bear over here.
Ask the road crews for worn carbide inserts from asphalt binders.
That might work well in the equivalent of a ball mill. Unfortunately, what I've got is I have to have specific shapes and such, which is why I've got the hard facing on a steel backing plate, basically. So to make, but yeah, those tungsten carbide And so if you could have, if you had a way of using those tungsten carbide inserts, yeah, those are some tough son of guns. Absolutely. And I can't think of a way to make that one really work. But it would, if somebody makes tungsten carbide bars, that would be ideal. And you could probably braze them on there and make it hold. Don't know, but I'm guessing there's a way of doing that. What is your weld hard facing? Well, 406, who by the way is a good knowledgeable welder, the impactors in the impact mill, the edges take a tremendous beating and abrasion from the quartz. And so it's pretty much designed to focus the wear in that area and then use hard facing to improve the wear. Without hard facing, an impactor would last a couple hours till you're, wearing out the rotor substantially. And so that's what we're doing. Originally, when I built this thing, the supplier that I was using had Studi 21, which seemed to last pretty well. Not a huge length of time, but I mean more than 1,500 pounds. And now we're having trouble with it lasting 700 or 800 pounds before the hard face starts to wear through, and we wind up with a wearing of the base metal and such, because once you wear the hard face through, the impactor itself wears through quickly, and then it gets into the base metal of the rotor itself. If you know a better material than Studi 21 for impact abrasion, I would love to know it. Say the Hardalloy 140 by Hobart. It's easy to use. It's not a bad material for welding, but it just does not seem to hold up as well.
Did you read Kodak's comments about welding in carbide? Go to machine shops and ask about getting old carbide tooling and welding it in. And Frances said she found they found eutectic rod from a local swap meet, 15 pounds for $5. Wow.
Yeah, what are those other two there?
Jean-Francois says, try to get carbide scraps from machine shops, machining very large objects, thus large inserts. Carbide is sold for scrap, so you won't get it for free. We checked the wear, David, what, about every 400 pounds, 300 pounds, just because?
Yeah, 400 or 500 pounds, because with an impact, it's easy for me to loosen one bolt, take 3 out, and
406, I'm generally running 3 beads on my edges. I do not run a single bead.
Yeah.
Never. And Francis says, Class 8 truck leaf springs are great backing material for hard facing. It welds great.
That could be, yeah.
Yeah, and there are some old leaf springs out there in the back 40.
Yeah, say, we try and use a consistent material like a bar stock, because it just makes it easy. If I'm using 5.5-inch strap, then everything's very consistent to build the rotors out of. If I'm using 2.5 or 3-inch strap across the rotor, that would be good. It's just, we got to get it all balanced too. And it turns out it's not too hard to balance reasonably well by just with our clutching pulley there. We unclutch, take the belt off the pulley, and then just, rotate the rotor a little bit one way, the other way, see how it goes, and then add a few washers to whatever mounting bolts you need so that it behaves consistently. And that seems to be good enough. What?
406 says carbide's brittle, good for wear, not impact. And Tricky says, Keith, just off topic, I'll make and send you the video for the detector instruments in operation. As Christine and myself are free today. Should have it by morning your time. Do I send to Lars also?
It's fine with me. If you want to, sure.
I'm sure Lars would like to see it.
I'm sure Lars would. I presume some other people would too, but you have to decide what you want to do. And what's the last one there?
That was, I just
okay.
read to you the last one.
Okay. Anyhow, so it only takes start to finish about 10 minutes to change out the tip impactors. It's designed for a quick change. We could get more of them and therefore, have 3 or 4 sets all hard-faced, ready to go, and, make production go as much as possible. The outer wear plates, the wear bars on those seem to be holding up pretty good, but sooner or later, probably at the end of the season, we'll pull all of those out and really build them up well for next season. But I am not pleased with the wear rate on the hard alloy 140 by Hobart. When I get the Studi 21, my plan is to get a brand new set of impactors and hard face one with the Studi 21 and the other two with the hard alloy, and that way I can run a very good consistent test. I'll have 2 impactors with one, 2 on the other, all running the exact same material at the exact same time. Hard to get better than that. Okay, Tricky. I'll check with you before I send it off to any individual person. But that'll work just fine. So, I'll say right now we're in the midst of testing other stuff, like checking to see if we got any preg robbing going on with the clay. The stuff at top of the hill definitely has a lot more clay than the stuff at Montana B. And the solution concentrations, they just look a little wonky. Things aren't doing the way we'd expect. So we're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Either we're getting real good recovery by gravity, or something's a little wonky somewhere. We're trying to figure out what. We've got tests underway with that. We got samples at the lab right now that we may have results in a day or so. They've had them about a week, but he has an accessory, an add-on, whatever. The automatic sampler for his ICP has been giving problems, so he has to manually do it, which makes life difficult and slow. Got any gold? We're getting some gold every week. Another thing that we're finding is that the gravity concentrates from top of the hill are a low-grade gold, i.e., 70% roughly?
Yeah.
Figured out? But it's got so much silver in it, it doesn't part well. So it's really difficult to get a really nice, good yellow bead out of it as it is. So we're just, at this point, we basically said it's not worth it on a little batch level to try and semi-refine it by digesting it. So what we're doing is just smelting it down into doré beads running about 70% silver, and then later on, if the claim owner wants to, we can take a number of those, combine them with some silver, and then part it, and then smelt it into gold beads. Thank you, Tricky. So, anyhow, that's kind of what we're doing, and we're trying to just recycle the same leach solution batch after batch to bring up the concentration of gold in it. And then we're going to take and pump that solution into one of our tanks so we can measure how much is there, and then pump it through one resin cartridge with fresh resin to see how much that one cartridge can recover. We'll have a tank of presumably consistent concentration, which we can then assay with high degree of precision. When we pump it across, we have a precise volume, and then at the other side, we can assay the solution concentration again, and therefore get a good recovery.
Honey posted a link that, Honey, could you please email that link to us too? About an excellent process for separating heavies for panning or shaker tables with magnetics, I believe.
Cool.
Let me see.
So what's that last
Super
one?
awesome method separating magnetics from everything else. David just said, we'll check it out later, honey buddy.
Yeah.
And she said it's a really cool way to use big magnets to mass separate granular magnetite from everything else.
Yeah. So anyhow, these are some of the tests that we're currently working on, some of which are ongoing, others we're getting set up on. But on the leaching side of things, that little, itchy feeling in the back of your neck, like something's going on here, I'm not sure what is going on, and it isn't the shingles. So we're double checking everything to see what's up, and we'll kind of keep you updated on what we find. But that's in process. We're also, again, testing all these various types of quartz from the dozer dump, from different locations, different types, different layers. And it's very easy for us to segregate those as we mine it, mark it, and then crush the buckets separately, run them through the sluice separately, and get a really pretty accurate amount of, what's the gravity gold in this batch versus that batch, that sort of thing. So it's a handy thing. I mean, we're basically doing, 200-pound samples, and while it's not assaying, I mean, when we weigh the gravity cons and we know what the standard ratio of gold to gravity cons is, we can get a fairly accurate number of how much gravity gold is accessible in that particular batch. And so we're using this as a test method instead of crushing it, splitting it down, pulverizing it, and then hand panning it. Why bother doing all that when you're going to run it anyway? And it takes me about 5 minutes to idle down the impact mill, climb up there, pull out the mats in the sluice, rinse them out, put them back in, climb back down, and get back going again. So it's not that much production out there.
Allergies to pine needles.
I don't have allergies to pine needles, but we're trying to see whether pine needles are prey robbing, because we have a problem with a big pine tree over the pad. Most of the time we have a pad cover on there.
Yeah. I'm going to be testing the needles. I'm going to be testing the flowers that fell down that turn into pine cones. I got a lot of things that I need to test.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff to test. So
I mean, we may have to rely on spot testing, use our standard solution and bottle roll the stuff for a week and then do a spot test to see if it's gotten lighter or something. But
I don't know.
if we see a drastic change in color, that's when we can send a before and after sample to the lab.
I'm not sure what the clays are, but they don't centrifuge out too well. But if you just let it sit for 4 or 5 days, you get a pretty clear solution on top. So that's kind of what we're doing now, is just setting it on a countertop for a while before we worry about taking it to the lab. And or we take it to the lab and he lets it sit on the countertop for 4 or 5 days before he does it. But I get the feeling that there's something wonky going on. It's definitely got a lot more chemical consumption from top of the hill. It's using more Eco Goldex, and it's using up lime, whereas the stuff from the buckhorn did not require lime to keep the pH up. The natural alkalinity of the Eco Goldex was sufficient to
And the natural
maintain the pH.
alkalinity of the ore. I am pretty sure that ore over there is acid to some extent.
I would kind of imagine that.
Well, yeah, especially since the way the calcite gets ed away, we've got so much bladey stuff that.
Well, calcite is not acid.
No, but I'm saying it got ed away by an acid substance.
Yeah. So these are kind of what we're doing here. And another thing too, I have a MineLab GPX 5000, I believe,
Oh, yes.
that I would like to trade for a Gold Monster 1000. So if anyone wants to make that trade, let me know, because I need something a little less complex than a MineLab. It's a very powerful, versatile machine, but as I used a metaphor, a well-trained sniper can use a very complex, very accurate rifle to great effect. With me, just give me a standard, good, good, reasonably accurate rifle with a simple scope, and that's about as good as I can do. And I don't get messed up by all the complexities.
Thank you, honey bunny. I appreciate it.
And so, let's say, the MineLab 5000 is specifically designed for high mineral soils, this and that and the other. And it's a great machine, but it's complicated. And I prefer something that's lighter, easier, and less complicated. The guys that I break for Bedrock, Adam suggested that for someone with my skill level, my knowledge, a Gold Monster 1000 is about as good as I could do. We're the 30-06, Remington Model 700 sort of thing. Exactly. I need something simple, easy to understand, easy to use, and reasonably accurate and powerful. I've seen both the Gold Monster and the Gold Bug 2 in the hands of the guys from my break for Bedrock. Both of them were picking up pretty small stuff, but he suggested that I go with the Gold Monster because it's easier for a newbie to use.
406 says Studi makes a MIG wire that's kind of expensive but might make hard facing easier. We have a buzz box.
Yeah.
It don't do MIG.
I don't have a MIG. Now, Lauren does, but he's awfully busy, and I'm sure he doesn't want me to use his big ESOB MIG. Yeah, and he does have the hard face wire, but yeah, it definitely would make things a lot easier, 100%.
Well, then I wouldn't be able to get any practice either, though, because I certainly would not subject Lauren's nice tools to my hands.
I understand what you're saying. it's not your basic miller,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
It's an industrial machine, and I would have the same kind of hesitancy. Got some more stuff there,
Yeah.
and therefore
Uh,
I would.
Honey says I just hit the ore really hard and picked through. Hold on. The wreckage. Kodak says just sent you guys a photo of most of what one of my customers is trading me for labor. What I like is it's a guy panning. And Honey says her comment is invisible. Wow. You can show it if you want. 406 says just throwing it out there for you. Honey, I don't know what to tell you because I see my comment is invisible in brackets. Then I see wow. Then I see I posted something and it's invisible with an @ sign. And Kodak, I'm going to go take a look at that picture and see what we got there.
Yeah,
It'll take me a
406.
minute here.
Yeah, when Lauren is hard facing, he's using the ESOB with the hard face wire. Absolutely. And I'm sure both you and Lauren are vastly, I know Lauren is, I'm sure you are also vastly better welder than I am. But
Whoa! Okay, folks, we got to show this one off. That right there is an Engelhard Prospector. 1984 looks like in this particular case. Just so you know, AT3 is the key date that you want for your prospectors because 1983 is the one that's worth the most money for some bizarre and unaccountable reason. I trade those on a very regular basis with my friend down in Tucson.
can I have the Tylenol, please? Back start there.
Here you go. But that is a very nice prospector right there. Engelhard. Beautiful, beautiful product. And for those who don't know, Engelhard was, I believe, acquired by Asahi not long ago. But yeah, that is an excellent thing to get. Everybody should want one of those things. I love them.
But anyhow,
Honey Bunny says, oh, you see it. Works even if I can't see it. Okay. And she said she's been welding today. This old mine with Lars. Hi, Lars. Says he hard faces with a coat hanger and beer. Really?
no, isn't that shit face?
Mr. Virtue wants to know if we're going to crush bluestones. No. Those are my rocks. Nobody touches my rocks.
Not unless we wind up into some ore like that ourselves. Those were just specimens she was allowed to take from a different location. Anyhow, so that's kind of our situation here. And 406, would you agree that Studi's the toughest hard facing around? Nice to see you again. That as I'm thinking of buying a 10-pound box of the Studi 21 and going from there. Does that sound like the best option to you? That's actually about the same price as the what was it? Hardalloy, but it seemed to last longer. So I'll definitely do a side-by-side test. Little one.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, I can't see.
406 says I ran some pretty nice welds with a Lincoln 110 buzz box, one that you can hook up shield gas. And Honey Bunny says beer makes all men hard. 406 says one of the best, 21 or 31. Yeah.
Yeah. 21 is like got a Rockwell hardness like maybe 1 or 2 points harder than the 31.
Yeah, and this old mine says that works on so many levels.
Yep. So anyhow, so that's my evil plan. We'll go from there. But Everything seems to be working okay. I also saw Dave from Butte was out at the get together with Jason from Flower Gold Wizards. I saw him. And Sherry, right? And then
Yeah.
Dora is the dog,
Uh-huh.
puppy.
Yeah, because the name of its mine is the Dora-Doo.
So
And that's a pretty pupper he's got, too.
anyhow, do we have any questions or anything at this point?
If not, we may want to think about ending it because your back is beginning to hurt.
Yeah, my back's starting to hurt. We're not really covering any new territory.
Oh, we're gonna.
So, anyhow, that's basically our evil plan for this week. Get through those samples we took last week. Use that as guidance on what to get this week. Good night, Jean-Francois. And go from there. But it's hard to tell how much time we got left up there. Not last weekend, but the weekend before, the first night there when we woke up, it was a good hard frost the night before.
Every weekend we get up there now is gravy, I'm pretty sure.
What? 406 says what?
I told you, ran Studi 31, number 21. Eva, you running uphill or downhill beats?
She's going horizontally.
Horizontally.
Yep. We're able to lay it flat.
As of yet, I'm not doing uphill or downhill things. Yeah, David, that started out as my project. My goal is to dissect the whole dang dump. I love that dump. I am very attached to that dump because that dump has lots of crystal clusters in it.
Let's see if I got this right. You love it, so you want to dissect it.
Good night, Jean-Francois. Well, yeah. I mean, I love it as much as I love
Suddenly I'm
chicken.
nervous.
I love it as much as I love chicken. Besides, what's wrong with wanting to dissect things you love?
I can think of a reason.
Honey says she's going to post some of her welding projects later this week. That will be great. And I would Kodak, when it comes to the prospectors, the 1983s, if you take a look on eBay for whatever reason, the first year was 1982, okay? And they had the large E reverse that they carried 82, 83, and 84. 84 actually had two reverses. One was the large E, the other one was the Eagle. And then 85, 86, 87, they had only the Eagle as the reverse. So you've got 82 through 87. You have a total of 7 coins because in 84 you had 2 types. You had type 1, which had the big E reverse, type 2, that had the Eagle. And yes, honey bunny, according to rumors out there, for whatever reason, there are far fewer 1983s out and about than any of the others. So if you take a look on Amazon, where the 82s, 85s, etc., tend to run about 40, anywhere from $38 to $40, $45 a piece, I've seen the 83s going for as high as 70, which is quite interesting. Now, it should be noted, piece of trivia here for you, the rarest prospector out there is the silver Canadian prospector. There were 250 minted. They average about $1,400 a piece for a silver coin. It is the Canadian prospector on the obverse and the Canada Goose on the reverse. But yeah, if you find the 83s, keep them.
Yeah, Francis, that comes
Keep
in.
the 83s, and also Kodak when it comes to 84. For collector value, the Big E 84 reverse tends to have a slightly higher collector value than the Eagle reverse that premiered that year. Don't know why.
Yeah, Francis, that comes in handy. Be careful about potential heat distortion. I know when I'm hard facing the wear plates on the jaw crusher, those rascals like to warp if you don't clamp them, and I put a washer in the center when I clamp it down so that it gives a little bit of reverse warp to it. So when it hardens and sets up and I release the clamps, it comes back to flat. Otherwise, if you just clamp it flat, it'll warp up on you, and each time it tends to do it a little bit more. So that's been a problem.
And yeah, when it comes, if you're going to get paid in silver, the best silver to get paid in for rounds are the prospectors or the U.S. Assay Office rounds made by Continental Coin in 1981. They come in two types of reverse. One is an eagle taking off, one's an eagle landing. If you're getting paid in sovereign modern coinage, then the best things you can get paid in are maple leaves and American silver eagles. For whatever reason, Austrian Philharmonics, despite being absolutely beautiful, tend to not have as high a premium when you go to resell them on the secondary market. So they're not a preferable coin for getting paid in. The other thing is any and every Perth mint, especially older koalas. Older koalas, for whatever reason, are very, very difficult to find at times. They had a lower mintage than the kookaburras or the roos of older years.
Yeah, Francis, that can be a problem. That's why I like a lot of skip.
Yeah,
too.
basically reverse warp would mean unwarp, I believe, Kodak. He talks weird sometimes.
Well, that's it. It's going to try and warp one way, so I stress it the other way, and when you release the pressure after it's cooled, it'll come back to pretty close to flat. It doesn't take much, about an eighth of an inch thick washer right in the middle of I think it's about a 6x12 plate is all it takes.
Yeah, Honey says, actually, John, you can reverse warp a bent plate. I've done it quite recently.
Yeah. I say there's all kinds of interesting things you can do, but I had one too that literally had shrunk up over time with all the times I had hard faced it, and then it conveniently broke so that I could separate the ends to bring them back to the same original dimensions between holes, and then weld it up and then hard face over the weld. So that worked out pretty well. But yeah, it's one of those things. Those plates for the RC46 are like $125 each from Keen, and if you just didn't hard face them and ran them with this quartz, you'd probably have a hole in it in 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, it is amazing how much the sheer abrasive quality of this quartz. And the funny thing about it, the saccharoidal quartz, the sugar quartz, when I rub two pieces together and make the little sugar grades come off, I rub some on my skin just for fun to see how it felt. And I swear, if I had rubbed it just a little harder, I would have left behind. It would have taken my skin right off. That stuff is some seriously abrasive quartz.
Yeah.
They're discussing welding again.
Yeah. The other thing is in the jaw crusher, the stationary jaw has much, much less wear than the movable jaw. I presume because you'll get a chunk in there and it's just sitting there, and the movable jaw is trying to do this and just grinding itself up.
Francis says I get 4 hours running straight bull quartz.
Yeah, that's why
Honey
you hard
says
face.
get some bulk AR 550 and weld it on if nothing else.
I don't think that's gonna do a whole lot because the wear plates from Keen are heat treated to Rockwell 65, I think. I mean, those are hardened alloy plates.
It's pretty darn ridiculous, I will say that.
And it still just doesn't
This
last.
quartz is ridiculously abrasive.
Quartz is extremely abrasive. And
Francis says, I get AR 500 free from the shooting range.
there you go. And how well does that work without hard facing? Is that same 4 to 6 hours sort of stuff? Because the hard facing, essentially the hard facing itself will, in the RC46, the movable jaw has 2 high wear zones on the plate. There's one high wear zone on the plate, but it's not the same place as when you reverse it. They're designed to be reversed so that if you hard face it, you run it for a while, you stop, you swap ends, run it for a while, and
Shane says, good evening. I'm late because I've been harvesting soybeans. Well, whoa. Yeah, I bet you have been.
that's a lot of plucking.
406 says, who you buying jaw crusher plates from? Well, in this case, we got ours from Keen because Keen made the crusher.
Yeah. I say, it's basically just 1/4 inch thick plate.
Yeah. Honey says AR means abrasion resistance. Yeah, so it claims.
Yeah, that's
Shiny says, is it a good idea to stack copper? There's so much hype over gold and silver. Well, let me put it this way, Shiny. As the stacker in the house, I will tell you right now, if I had the room, I would be stacking copper. But the form you stack copper in is in usable pipe. You stack pipe. You stack coils of copper tubing. You stack various copper joints. You do stack some copper plate here and there because it does have its uses here and there. But the best way to stack copper is copper wire, copper tubing, copper pipe, and copper fittings. Especially since they can come in very handy under certain circumstances, you know. Just saying, like in the lab, if you want to distill water, having copper is very useful.
where's our list for tomorrow, little one?
I have no idea.
These are here or over there. It's going to look like this.
I don't see it anywhere, dude.
Well, it's critical that I get it now while I'm thinking of this, so hold on a second. We need some fittings, remember?
Yeah.
Pen, please.
But yeah, I mean, I stock, if I had the room, I'd be stacking copper wire, I'd be stacking copper fittings, stacking copper tubing of all varieties, and definitely stacking pre-1982 pennies, just because I love pre-1982 pennies, and I don't want the feds melting them down. Kodak says, just a thought, many things that don't have a lot of strength, if moving fast enough, will break hard stuff. A piece of straw stuck in a tree after a tornado. True. Yeah. Shane says, we custom harvest. Since Wednesday, we had 4 machines and we covered 4,000 acres. Wow.
Wow.
That's a lot of freaking soybeans.
Is it GPS guided or is it all manual, Shane?
Good question.
Anyhow, another observation and phenomenon here. Eva's going to have to go through the hose fittings that we have on the garden hoses because apparently the brass is precipitating gold. And so I need to replace all the brass fittings with plastic ones. We've had 2 actually fail because the brass got so corroded, but the more importantly, that's some real shiny brass.
Yeah, bright.
So she's going to have
golden
to
yellow. Yeah.
nitric acid those little rascals and recover the gold.
Yeah.
So
there'll probably be a video on that.
Yeah. So you really need to make sure you don't have.
Well, 406. You know, you need lots of distilled water to run a lab. And have you seen the price of distilled water lately? It's $1.82 a gallon. You know, it's really terrible. Shane says it's auto steer GPS guidance. So Shane, are those soybeans for soybean meal, for silage? Are they for making soybean oil? All of the above? I mean, do you have any idea what happens to the things that you are harvesting? I'm just curious.
They go that away. Well, if you got GPS guidance, that minimizes your workload, but does it make it harder to stay awake?
Yeah, does it make it more boring?
You know?
Well, yeah, Shiny Rocks. I mean, this is the kind of show we have, from Home Depot sand to garden hose fittings. And yes, you have to watch out for this, apparently, if you're leaching things. Make sure you use all plastic everything.
Yeah, if you possibly can, just go 100% plastic. However, things like clamps are a little hard to find in all plastic. They have a pretty close to all plastic fitting that we can get for hose ends, but it does have stainless steel screws. So we'll see what happens there.
Kodak says his uncle built a crossbow with a leaf spring.
Wow, that's a powerful crossbow.
Yeah, 406. Yeah, I mean, corn, water, sugar, and yeast will be great for making cornbread. Absolutely. You forgot the cast iron skillet. Shane said even some companies use the straw to make carpet. Wow. Yeah.
So, anyhow, that's another thing to watch out for. We'll be doing a video on it. Anything else, little one?
No, can't think of anything.
Okay. Now, why don't you post it there, honey bunny? And we'll call it a night.
His back is still hurting. Now, Shiny, why would he be making white lightning? I mean, really now.
What other color is there?
And Shane says, hell no, you got so much shit going on with computers and stuff, you really don't have time to get sleepy. A 40-foot sloth between 4 to 6 miles an hour, and that's a lot of real estate. Yeah, that is.
40 foot wide, huh? Wow.
That is amazing, Shane. You're going to have to post some videos, because I'd love to know about that. That sounds really cool. But anyway, happy prospecting and keep it safe out there, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for showing up.